Hello, my amazing learners, and welcome back to the Wisdom English podcast. My name is Sarah. Today, I am going to teach you one of the most important skills for becoming a truly fluent English speaker: how to think directly in English. We all know how frustrating it can be when we have to stop and translate sentences from our native language into English before speaking. It slows us down. It makes us feel less confident, and it often leads to unnatural-sounding mistakes. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could skip that translation process entirely? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely possible. By following 4 simple stages, you can train your brain to think directly in English. And trust me, this will make a huge difference in how you speak. And make sure you stay with me through all 4 stages, because at the very end, I'll share a final, simple exercise that brings all of these stages together and makes thinking in English an automatic habit. Stage 1. Think in verbs, the power of action words. The first stage of learning to think in English is to focus on verbs. Verbs are the action words in a sentence. They describe what is happening. Why do we start with verbs? Because our world is constantly in motion. Action is all around us, and if we can learn to identify and name these actions in English, we can start forming sentences in our heads much more quickly. Let's take an example. Imagine you are walking through the beautiful Central Park in New York City. You see people everywhere, all engaged in different activities. What are they doing? You can start to mentally label the actions you see. Some people are running along the path, others are talking on a bench. You see a dog chasing a ball, and a child is feeding pigeons near a fountain. The verbs here are run, talk, chase, feed. By simply observing the actions around you and naming them in your mind, you are beginning the process of thinking in English. This process of observing and identifying actions is something you can do absolutely anywhere. Whether you're standing at a bus stop in London, waiting at a traffic light in Tokyo, or sitting in a lovely cafe in Paris, there are always actions happening around you. On a busy street in Tokyo, you might see people walking quickly, someone riding a bicycle, or a group of friends laughing together. You can mentally note these actions in English: walk, ride, laugh. But what if you're at home, where there's not much happening? You can still practice thinking in verbs by imagining scenarios or by using pictures. For instance, find a photo online of a family picnic. What actions do you see? Maybe they are eating sandwiches, playing a game, or simply relaxing on a blanket. Even when you're indoors, you can practice by thinking about what you might do in different situations. Imagine you're in your kitchen. You might be cooking dinner, cleaning the counter, or washing the dishes. All of these are verbs you can practice. Here is a key practice tip for this stage. Set aside just 5 to 10 minutes each day to practice thinking in verbs. Pick a different place each day: your office, the supermarket, the game, and focus only on the actions happening around you. As you do this regularly, you'll train your brain to automatically think about actions in English, making it much easier to describe what's happening in the moment. This is the first foundational step. Stage 2. Think in nouns, naming the world around you. Once you've practiced thinking in verbs and you feel comfortable identifying actions, it's time to move on to the second stage. Thinking in nouns. Nouns are words that name people, places, things, or ideas. Just like verbs, nouns are everywhere. Everything you can see, touch, or even think about has a name. If you can learn to think of these names directly in English, you'll be one giant step closer to thinking and speaking fluently. Let's take an example from a different city. Imagine you're in Sydney, Australia, standing by the iconic Sydney Opera House. As you look around, you see the magnificent building itself, the sparkling harbor, and many tourists taking photos. You also see a boat gliding through the water and a few seagulls flying above. Each of these things is a noun: building, harbor, tourists, boat, seagulls. The practice is to simply name them in your mind as you see them. It's important to practice thinking in nouns wherever you are. If you're at a bustling market in Delhi, India, your mind can be busy identifying all the nouns. You might see colorful fruits, exotic vegetables, fragrant spices, and friendly vendors. These are all nouns that describe the objects and people around you. Even if you're just sitting in your room right now, you can look around and identify at least 10 nouns. For example, you might see a table, a chair, a book, a laptop, a window, a curtain, a lamp, a picture on the wall, your phone, and a cup. Another great way to practice thinking in nouns is to describe what you're carrying with you. What's in your bag or your pockets right now? Maybe you have a phone, some keys, a wallet, and a pen. If you practice naming these objects in English, it will soon become second nature. Over time, this habit will help you think much faster and more clearly in English. Here is your key practice tip for this stage. Spend a few minutes each day just naming the objects around you in English. Whether you're outside, at home, or even traveling, challenge yourself to identify everything you can in English. For instance, if you're visiting the beautiful city of Barcelona, Spain, you can look around and name things like buildings, bicycles, cafes, tourists, trees, and fountains. The more you practice this simple act of naming, the more your brain will automatically think in English without needing to translate. Stage 3. Think in sentences, connecting verbs and nouns. Once you're comfortable thinking in verbs and nouns separately, it's time to move on to the next very exciting step, thinking in sentences. This is where you start to put the verbs and nouns together to describe what's happening around you in full, complete thoughts. At this stage, it's very important to start simple. Don't worry about making long, complicated, grammatically perfect sentences. Just focus on creating short, clear sentences that describe what you see. For example, if you're in the stunning city of Cape Town, South Africa, looking up at the majestic Table Mountain, you might form these simple sentences in your mind. The tourists are climbing the mountain. The sun is shining brightly. The wind is blowing gently. These sentences are simple, but they are complete thoughts, and they allow you to practice thinking in full sentences. Now, let's imagine you're in Toronto, Canada, sitting in a beautiful park on a summer day. What's happening around you? You could describe the scene like this. A family is having a picnic. The children are playing with a ball. The birds are flying in the sky. Again, these sentences are short, but they effectively describe the scene around you. As you become more comfortable with simple sentences, you can start to make your sentences a little longer and more detailed. For example, if you're in Berlin, Germany, walking near the historic Brandenburg Gate, you might say to yourself, A group of tourists is taking pictures of the monument. Some of them are listening to their tour guide, while others are checking their maps. This sentence combines multiple verbs and nouns, giving a much fuller description of the scene. The goal here is to get your brain used to thinking in sentences instead of just isolated words. This will help you immensely when you're speaking, as you won't have to stop and think about each individual word. Your brain will automatically start to form sentences in English. Here is your key practice tip for this stage. Every day, take 10 to 15 minutes to just describe your surroundings in sentences. Whether you're at home, in the office, or walking through a new city, try to form complete sentences in your head that describe what's happening. If you're in a charming cafe in Rome, Italy, you might think, "The waiter is serving coffee. 2 friends are chatting at the next table. A couple is reading a menu." This daily practice will make thinking in English sentences much more natural and automatic. Stage 4. Think in paragraphs, bringing it all together. The final stage of this process is to move from thinking in single sentences to thinking in paragraphs. This means describing everything around you in much more detail, telling a full story in your mind, or creating a more vivid and complete picture of a scene. Imagine you're visiting the magnificent Great Wall of China. Here's how you might describe it in a full paragraph in your mind. "I'm standing on the Great Wall, and the view is absolutely incredible. The mountains stretch out as far as I can see, and the wall itself winds its way across the landscape like a giant stone dragon. There are tourists all around me, taking pictures and walking along the ancient stones. I can hear people speaking in many different languages, and there's a cool breeze blowing through the air. The steps are steep in some places, and the stone is worn and smooth from centuries of use." In this paragraph, you've combined everything we've practiced. Verbs like standing, stretching, taking, walking, nouns like wall, view, mountains, tourists, and you've connected them all into sentences to create a full, rich description of the scene. By practicing this, you start thinking in English more naturally, because you're not just forming short sentences. You're able to describe things in full detail. Let's take another example. Imagine you're walking through a bustling, vibrant market in Istanbul, Turkey. You might describe the scene like this. The market is filled with people, all busy shopping and bargaining with the vendors. I can smell the fragrant spices in the air, and the bright colors of the handmade rugs and textiles catch my eye. A man is selling hot tea from a traditional cart, and groups of tourists are taking photos of everything. The sound of people talking and laughing fills the air, and the entire atmosphere is lively and energetic. When you practice thinking in paragraphs like this, you are training your brain to describe events and scenes in full detail without stopping to translate from your native language. This stage is essential because it helps you not only think in English but also express your thoughts in a more coherent and fluent way. Let's take one more example to practice. Imagine you're sitting in a cozy cafe in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. Here's how you might describe the scene in a paragraph. I'm sitting at a small wooden table by the window, sipping my hot coffee. The cafe is warm and inviting, with soft jazz music playing in the background. Outside, I can see people riding their bicycles along the canal, their reflections shimmering in the water. The sky is a little cloudy, and it looks like it might rain soon. Inside the cafe, a few people are reading books, and a couple is chatting quietly over their breakfast. The delicious smell of freshly baked bread fills the air, and the atmosphere is wonderfully calm and peaceful. In this paragraph, you've combined all the elements, verbs, nouns, and sentences to create a vivid picture. This is the final stage of thinking in English, where you can describe complex situations in detail, just as you would in your native language. So, let's do a quick practice right now. Take a few minutes to describe your day so far in a paragraph. Start from the moment you woke up and think about everything that has happened. What did you do? Where did you go? Who did you meet? Try to describe it all in English. For example, today was a busy day. I woke up early this morning and went for a walk in the park before work. The weather was nice and cool, and I saw a lot of people exercising. After that, I had a quick breakfast at a small cafe near my house. I ordered a cappuccino and a croissant. Later, I went to work and had a long meeting with my team. We discussed our new project, and everyone had some great ideas. In the evening, I planned to meet a friend for dinner at a new restaurant. We're going to have a great time catching up and talking about our week. This type of daily practice will not only help you think in English, but also improve your ability to recall and describe events in detail. Putting it all together, achieving fluency through practice. By now, you should have a clear understanding of the 4 stages of thinking in English. First, you think in verbs, focusing on action words to describe what is happening around you. Second, you think in nouns, naming the people, places, and things you see in your surroundings. Third, you think in sentences, combining verbs and nouns to form short, simple sentences. And fourth, you think in paragraphs, bringing everything together to create detailed descriptions of scenes and events. Each of these stages builds on the previous one, helping you develop the ability to think directly in English without the need for translation. It's important to practice each stage regularly, as this will train your brain to process information in English more naturally. Why is this method so essential for fluency? As we've discussed, when you first start learning English, you likely translate from your native language. This is natural, but it creates a cognitive load, a delay in your speaking. Instead of speaking smoothly, you have to pause and think, which can make you feel less confident. By practicing thinking in English, you eliminate that translation step. Your thoughts will naturally form in English, making your speech faster and more fluid. When you can think in English, you'll also find it easier to have conversations, express your ideas, and respond quickly in discussions. For example, imagine you're at a job interview in London, and the interviewer asks you to describe a challenging situation you faced at work. If you're thinking in your native language, you might need a moment to translate your thoughts into English. But if you've trained yourself to think in English, you can respond immediately and confidently without that awkward hesitation. The same goes for everyday conversations. Whether you're chatting with friends, giving a presentation, or even ordering food at a restaurant, being able to think in English will make the process much smoother. Practical exercises to help you think in English daily. Now that you've learned the 4 stages, here are some practical exercises you can do every day to improve your ability to think in English. First, daily observation. Spend 10 to 15 minutes each day just observing your surroundings and describing them in English in your head. Whether you're on the bus, at the park, or walking through your neighborhood, challenge yourself to describe everything you see using verbs, nouns, and sentences. Second, picture descriptions. Find an interesting photo from a magazine, a website, or your own photo album. Look at the picture closely and describe everything you see in English. For example, if you're looking at a picture of a beach, you could say, "The sand is white and the water is crystal clear. There are a few people swimming in the ocean, and some children are building a sandcastle. In the distance, I can see a boat sailing on the horizon." Third, write in a journal. At the end of each day, write a short journal entry in English. Start by describing what you did that day, where you went, and who you met. As you practice, try to include more details and your personal thoughts and feelings in your descriptions. Fourth, talk to yourself. If you don't have anyone to practice speaking English with, you can practice by talking to yourself. Pick a topic and try to talk about it for a few minutes. For example, you could describe your favorite movie, explain how to make your favorite dish, or talk about your plans for the weekend. And fifth, set language challenges. Challenge yourself to think only in English for short periods throughout the day. For example, set a timer for 5 minutes and commit to thinking only in English during that time. You can gradually increase the time as you become more comfortable. Final thoughts. The road to fluency. Learning to think in English is a journey, and it requires patience and practice. The more you engage with the language, the more natural it will feel to think, speak, and express yourself in English. By following the 4 stages verbs, nouns, sentences, and paragraphs, you'll build a strong foundation for fluency. Remember, the key to success is consistency. Practice every day, even if it's just for a few minutes, and you will see improvement over time. It's normal to make mistakes along the way, but don't let that discourage you. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. So, are you ready to take the next step on your English learning journey? I challenge you to start practicing today. And now, for the final secret I promised. The one simple exercise that brings all 4 stages together is this. At the end of each day, lie in bed for 5 minutes before you go to sleep and mentally recreate a scene from your day as a short movie in your mind, narrating it in English. Start with the nouns, the people, the places. Add the verbs, what they were doing. Form the sentences, who did what. And finally, weave it all together into a short paragraph or story. This nightly practice combines all 4 stages and will make thinking in English an automatic habit. Thank you for joining me in today's lesson. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Wisdom English podcast channel to watch our next videos.